Hey everyone, Andrew back again and welcome to another video, and today it's time to have a little bit of fun and probably a little bit of controversy because today I'm here to talk about my top 10 overrated horror movies. I've done a list in the past, but it's been many years and my list has changed a little bit. But yeah, I'm here to talk about 10 horror movies that I consider to be criminally overrated. Now, don't get me wrong, there's some movies on this list that I like, but I just think are pretty overrated for what they are. And then there's others that I absolutely hate, I despise, and I just do not get any of the hype behind them whatsoever. So, with this list, I don't own all the movies. In fact, there's over half that I don't own. So, what I'm going to do is just show the movie posters when I talk about each of the films. So like my other top 10 lists or top lists, I'm going to start at number 10 and work my way down to number 1, the most overrated horror movie of all time in my opinion, which is probably going to be no surprise to most of you when I get to my number 1 pick. But anyway guys, let's get started. Okay, so coming in at 10th spot, we're going to start with something modern, and that is Cabin in the Woods. Now, a lot of the hype surrounding this movie has kind of died down, but I remember when this film first came out, it was hyped big time. Everyone seemed to love it, and I wasn't one of those people. I just didn't get the appeal to this movie whatsoever. I didn't like it. I didn't think it was very good whatsoever, and I definitely considered it to be pretty overrated. Number 9 goes to The Blair Witch Project. This was another one when it first initially released that got major hype. Everyone was going on about this movie. Now back in the day, I did not watch this movie in theaters. In fact, it was quite a few years later until I watched it. So maybe that has something to do with why I definitely think it's overhyped and overrated. I don't care for this movie whatsoever. I find it very boring. Nothing really happens, and yeah, I just consider this one to be very overrated. Sitting at number 8 goes to a 80s slasher film, The Prowler, and this one gets a lot of attention amongst slasher fans. Not everyone, but a lot of slashers seem to rate this pretty highly. I'm not one of those people. I will say the effects from Tom Savini and the kills within this movie are really good, but other than that, I definitely think it's an overrated 80s slasher. To me, it's just pretty slow and boring, and other than the effects and the kills, I don't really care for this movie whatsoever, so that's The Prowler. Okay, and sitting at number 7 we have another slasher, and that goes to Scream. I definitely think this is overrated. However, I don't hate this movie. I think it's a good film, although I will say over the years I kinda like it a little bit less and less. I think it was really effective when it first came out, but after that, yeah, I think it's definitely overrated now, still to this day. I do respect it though. I mean, it revived the slasher genre after all, but to me it's definitely overrated. So yeah, that's Scream. Okay, sitting at number 6 goes to The Devil's Rejects. Apart from a couple of movies, I'm not a big fan of Rob Zombie. I don't think he is that great of a director. He's very one-dimensional, and yeah, I'm not a fan of his style of movies. Now, I saw House of a Thousand Corpses years ago, wasn't a fan, and everyone was telling me, oh, you need to check out Devil's Rejects, it's so much better. I watched it last year for the first time, and I didn't like it. In fact, I didn't even finish the film. I think it's extremely overrated. It's definitely one of the most overrated modern horror movies, and probably the most overrated Rob Zombie film as well. So yeah, that's my opinions on The Devil's Rejects. Not a fan. Okay, and coming in at number 5, and this is where the list probably starts to get really controversial, and I know a lot of you won't agree, but sitting at number 5 goes to the original Night of the Living Dead. Now, I don't hate this movie. I think it's a good film, and I do have a lot of respect for it. It's a classic, you've got to give it that, and it basically invented the zombie genre. However, I don't think it's held up very well. I definitely think people hold this movie on really, really high regard that it doesn't quite deserve. I think Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead are a lot better, and then a lot of other zombie movies that came after this one are a lot better. However, as I said, it is a classic. I do like it, and I do respect it for what it has done for the zombie genre. I just definitely think it's overrated. Coming in at number 4 is another film that a lot of people seem to rate really, really highly, and the series in general, and that is Phantasm. I don't get the appeal behind this movie whatsoever. I definitely think it's one of the most overrated horror movies of the 70s. I've tried to watch it a few times, and yeah, I really don't like this one at all. I think it's pretty boring. I just am not a fan of it, so yeah, that's Phantasm at number 4. And coming in at number 3, we have The Shining, and this is probably another pretty controversial pick, but I had to be honest with this list. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't hate this movie. This is another one that I do quite enjoy. I think it's a good film. I don't think it's great, and it's certainly not one of my favourites. And again, I think people hold this movie in a little bit too high regard, and I definitely think it's overrated. Overall, to me, there are some great elements to the film. I really love the location, the acting's really good, and I love the way the movie's shot. But to me, it's a little bit slow for my liking. So, yeah, I don't hate The Shining, but I definitely consider it to be pretty overrated. And coming in at number 2 is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. I fucking hate this movie. It's garbage in my opinion. It's an abomination to what could have been a great follow-up to the original film. However, they completely changed the tone. I don't like the comedic elements of this movie whatsoever. I've watched this movie quite a few times. I've tried to get into it, but I just can't. I hate it. To me, this is what slowly started to ruin what could have been an amazing franchise for Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but they just changed the tone and the formula way too much from the original film, and a lot of people seem to love the sequel. I don't get it. I think it's terrible and extremely overrated. And my number 1 pick, the most overrated horror movie of all time in my opinion, is Return of the Living Dead. Now, this is probably going to be no surprise to people that know me, know my channel, because I've talked about this film numerous times in the past and how overrated I consider it to be and how much I absolutely fucking hate this movie. To me, this is easily the most overrated horror film of all time. Now, I have watched this movie or tried to watch this movie multiple times because I really wanted to give this movie a solid go to see if it would grow on me, and it really hasn't. In fact, I don't think I've even gotten through the entire film because I've either switched it off or fallen asleep. So yeah, to me, I just don't like the comedy within this movie. It doesn't really work. There's not really a lot of zombie action for a lot of the film. I don't really like the characters all that much, and to me, it's definitely extremely overrated. So that's Return of the Living Dead. Okay, so there you go. That was my top 10 most overrated horror movies. Let me know what you think of my picks in the comment section below. Please keep in mind this was my opinion and my opinion only, and I pretty much know for a fact that a lot of you hold some of these movies in very high regard and probably don't consider them to be overrated whatsoever, but that's fine. We all have different opinions on movies, and this was mine. So if you guys feel like doing a response to this, that would be great. I'd love to see some overrated horror movie responses. Either leave yours in the comments, or better still, make a video response. That would be awesome. And yeah, that's it for this video. I hope you've enjoyed it, and thank you for watching.